The Forbidden's grave, the sky above Zarin 4, was red with dust, and the wind moved like whispers through the canyons. David Rain, a human engineer from Earth, stood alone at the edge of a stone circle. His boots crunched against the dry ground as he stepped closer. He wasn't supposed to be here. Locals had warned him. Do not go near the grave of the spear. It is sacred. It is cursed, but David didn't believe in curses. He believed in tools, machines, and forgotten history. He was part of a small Earth crew studying alien ruins. When the others went north to scan old statues, David took his scanner and went west, following a strange signal only he had picked up. That signal had led him to this ancient site, one large stone slab covered in alien carvings. Surrounded by smaller sharp rocks like Fang's dot, in the center lay a long spear, half buried in the dirt, its metal gleaming silver blue. The grave was quiet. Too quiet. David walked around the grave slowly, checking his scanner. The energy reading was stronger than any tool or weapon they had found in weeks. Looks like a power source, he whispered. He turned on his headset recorder. Day 17, private log. Found unknown artifact, possibly a weapon. Long, metallic shaft. He paused, stepped closer. About 2 meters. There's a strange hum. It's vibrating. He reached down. A voice echoed behind him. Do not touch it. David turned. A tall woman stood there, wearing tribal armor made of bone and cloth. Her dark violet skin shimmered under the sun. Her black eyes held no kindness. She was beautiful, but angry. You are not of the blood, she said. This grave is sacred. You will bring a curse if you disturb it. David raised his hands. I didn't mean to disrespect. I'm just curious. She stepped forward. Curiosity kills, and it binds. That spear was placed in the grave of my mother, Queen Lyra of the Flame Spear clan. It is guarded by law and soul. Touch it and you will never leave this planet. David looked at the spear again. What do you mean, never leave? She didn't answer. Instead, she drew a curved blade from her hip. You were warned, she said. David backed away. Okay, I'll go. But then the spear pulsed. A deep hum filled the air. His scanner beeped wildly. The hum grew louder. David froze. Something in him moved. Not in his body, but in his mind. A feeling. A pull. Like gravity. Like a voice. Whispering. Take it. He looked at the woman again. I'm sorry, he whispered. I have to know. Then he stepped forward and gripped the spear. The moment his fingers touched the cold metal, a blast of wind shot from the grave. The sky flashed. The ground shook. Energy danced around the spear like lightning. The woman screamed, No! But it was too late. The spear lifted easily into David's hands. It felt warm, alive, like it had been waiting for him. The carvings on the stone lit up in bright gold. Symbols that had been dead for centuries now glowed with meaning. David looked at the spear. It chose me? The woman stood still now. Her blade lowered. Her face changed from anger to shock. You, she said softly. You touched the sacred spear and lived. He nodded slowly. I didn't mean to steal. I felt like I had to. She walked toward him. Her eyes were wide. The prophecy said no outsider could lift the spear unless they were fated. Unless they were meant to stand beside the Flame Queen's bloodline. David looked confused. I don't understand. She stopped just in front of him. Her voice dropped. Sarana, daughter of Lyra. Now that you've touched the spear, Earthman, you are bound, he said, by ancient law. You are my husband, David blinked. What? A silence passed between them. Then Sarana turned away. Return to your people if they will still have you. But the spear will not let you leave. You belong here now, to me. David stood there, the spear still in his hands, the dust still circling his boots. He had come for ruins in science. Instead, he had pulled a weapon from a queen's grave and become a husband by alien law. And deep inside, he had no idea. What came next? Bound by alien law, David stood in silence as Serana led him down the rocky path. The sacred spear was strapped across his back, still warm, still humming softly. Every step he took echoed with the weight of something ancient, something he didn't yet understand. The wind had changed. It was no longer just dust and air. It whispered words he couldn't hear, but somehow felt. The land itself was watching him now. Serana stopped near a jagged ridge where a camp was hidden inside stone walls. Strange animal horns decorated the archway, and burning fires marked the entrance. Tribal warriors stood guard tall, sharp-eyed, and heavily armed. As Serana stepped through, the guards bowed. But when they saw David behind her, their hands went to their weapons. He touched the spear. One growled. He did, Serana replied without looking back. The rite is complete. No, the warrior said. It cannot be. He is an off-worlder. Serana turned, eyes sharp. The spear chose him. That is law. David looked at them all. Listen, I'm not here to take anything. I'm not trying to steal your customs. I didn't know. You know now, the warrior snapped. Serana raised a hand. Enough. Prepare. The bonding fire. David blinked. Wait, bonding what? Serana didn't answer. She walked toward a tall, circular hut at the center of the village. David followed, confused and overwhelmed. Inside, the walls were covered in woven cloth, each design telling stories in symbols and threads. One showed a warrior woman holding the glowing spear. Another showed two figures standing in fire, hands locked. Sira now knelt before a small fire pit and began adding herbs. Blue smoke filled the air. This is the trial of truth, she said. We sit in the smoke. You speak. I listen. If your spirit matches the prophecy, the flame will rise. If not, she didn't finish the sentence. David sat opposite her. And what if I fail? You die, she said simply. David swallowed hard. The smoke swirled. It smelled sweet, but strange. His mind began to drift, memories bubbling up. His first days on this planet. His mother's voice from long ago. His love of stars. His loneliness. I never felt like I belonged anywhere, he said softly. Even on Earth, I was always floating, fixing things, watching, waiting. Serana didn't speak. I didn't come here to take your spear, David said. I followed a signal. My scanner picked it up. Maybe that was fate. Or maybe it was calling me. The flames shifted. Blue turned white. Serana's eyes widened. She whispered, the fire knows. David watched as the flames rose higher, crackling like music. Serana stood. The rite accepts you. David stood too. So that's it? I'm your husband now? She looked at him for a long moment. Yes, by law, by spirit, and by the will of the flame. But, he asked, you are still not ready. To claim me fully, you must face the warrior's trial. David tilted his head. Another test? Not a test, Serana said, stepping closer. A challenge. One will come to take me by force, to claim what he thinks is his. You must face him. Who? David asked. Serana's face turned cold. Krovax, she said. He was to be my bonded mate until you touched the spear. David felt his heartbeat quicken. He's not going to like that. No, Serana said, and he is already coming. Just then horns blew across the hills. The guards shouted. People ran. From the ridge above, The sky turned black with dust riders on six-legged beasts galloped toward the camp. David stepped outside, the spear still on his back. Serana looked at him, eyes filled with fire. You wanted answers, Earthman. You wanted truth. He nodded. Then show them, she said. Show them why the spear chose you. And behind them, Krovax rode into view armor black, eyes full of rage, and a sword that gleamed with blood. Memory. David had touched an ancient weapon. Now war was coming for his hand. Asterisk. The warrior's trial, the ground trembled. From the stone gates of the village, Krovax the bloodbound rode in on his beast, a six-legged monster with metal fangs and glowing red eyes. He wore black armor made from volcanic glass. His face was marked with war tattoos, and on his back was a sword taller than any human. Everyone in the tribe fell silent, except for David. He stood near the fire pit with the sacred spear strapped across his back. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. From focus. Because Serana had told him one thing before disappearing into her family's tent. You cannot beat Krovax with strength. You must beat him as a human. Krovax dismounted, stomping forward, like a beast himself. So, he snarled, this is the offworlder who dares to steal what is mine. David stayed calm. I didn't steal anything. I pulled the spear because it called to me. Krovax laughed. The spear is not yours. Serana is not yours. This is not your world. But now your blood will feed it. He raised his sword. David didn't move. Instead, he whispered into the small comm unit behind his ear. Trigger sequence, now. Far above, hidden inside the ridge, a small black cube activated. A drone barely the size of a bird clicked to life. It was part of David's personal toolkit, left behind by his team. The drone dropped something shiny into David's hand. A shock pellet, one of Earth's non-lethal defense tech tools. The tribe didn't know it yet. But David wasn't planning to kill Krovax. He was going to outthink him. The trial arena later that evening. The people gathered in the stone arena in a ring of ancient ruins lit by torchlight. Warriors drummed. The air smelled like smoke, blood, and coming storm. Serana sat on the queen's seat watching, silent, unreadable. David stepped into the ring with the spear in hand. Across from him, Krovax entered with his obsidian sword, dragging it against the ground. Sparks flew. The elder spoke. Trial of the bond begins. If the human dies, the bond is broken. If Krovax dies or yields, the spear chooses. Drums stopped. Silence. Then the horn blew. Krovax attacked. David versus Krovax. Alien warrior came fast, his strength brutal. He swung his sword down with crushing force. David rolled aside, the spear scraping stone. Krovax laughed. Run, little man. Run like all Earth cowards. David narrowed his eyes. He ducked another blow, then tapped his wrist device. Crack! A sudden flash burst, exploded behind Krovax. Light blinded him for 2 seconds, just enough. David swung the spear, not to kill, but to knock the blade from Krovax's hand. It clattered across the stone. The crowd gasped. Krovax growled, lunging with bare hands. David twisted, pulled the shock pellet from his belt, slammed it into Krovax's chest. Zzzzzztt. Blue energy crackled through the alien's armor. Krovax roared, fell to his knees, body spasming. David raised the spear, but didn't strike. I won't kill you, he sighed. I didn't come to fight. I came to protect. He turned to the crowd. I don't want to rule anyone. I just want to stand beside the one who believes in me. Serana stood slowly, her eyes full of something new. Respect. Krovax tried to rise, but the elder raised his hand. The trial is over. The flame has chosen. Later that night, David sat outside his tent, arms sore, heart racing. He still didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a guy who had just survived something impossible. Sarana sat beside him, quiet, watching the stars. "You didn't kill him," she said softly. "I didn't have to," David replied. "Your laws didn't ask for death, just proof." Sarana smiled for the first time. "Then you gave it, not just to me, to everyone." She touched the spear beside him. "You changed the meaning of this. Not with war, with wisdom." He looked at her, half smiling. "That's the human way." Sarana leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. "Then tomorrow, you begin the path of bonding. You will learn our ways, our stories, and me." David nodded. "I'd like that." From across the ridge, Krovax watched. In silence defeated, but not broken. War had ended for now, but something deeper was beginning. A union, a promise, and a bond stronger than any spear. Asterisk her secret pain. The night was quiet after the trial, but David could not sleep. Even with the sacred spear beside him and the cheers of the tribe still fresh in memory, his heart was heavy. He felt like he had passed a test, but not the most important one. He hadn't truly earned Sarana's trust. She was kind to him in front of the tribe, but behind her eyes, something was still locked away. Something painful. He needed to understand her. The story of the fallen queen. The next morning, David followed Sarana to a quiet place deep in the cliffs behind the village. The rocks here were carved with spirals and shapes like fire. This was not a battleground. It was a place of memory. Sira now knelt before a stone altar. "This is where my mother died," she said softly. "Not in war, not in battle. She was betrayed, poisoned by her own blood." David stepped closer, careful. "Who did it?" "My uncle," she said. "He wanted power. He thought the spear was only a symbol. But to my mother, it was sacred. A gift from the old ones, a protector of peace." She touched the stone gently. She knew the spear was not a weapon. It was a promise. A promise to protect, not to conquer. David nodded slowly. "Then I understand why you were angry when I pulled it." Sarana looked up. "No, David. I wasn't angry because of tradition. I was angry because I thought you would break the promise, like the others." David sat beside her. "I didn't come here to rule. I came to fix things. That's what I do." She gave a sad smile. "That's what my mother used to say, too." A night beneath the twin moons that evening, Sarana invited David to sit with her beneath the twin moons of Zarin IV. The village had lit fire bowls in his honor. Children danced. The drums were soft. But Sarana and David sat apart from the crowd, near the stream, where the water glowed under the stars. She wore a long red cloth robe, simple, beautiful. Her face was soft now. Not the warrior, but the woman. "Do you know what our word for husband really means?" she asked. David shook his head. "It means one who carries the fire when I cannot. Not just strength, not just battle, but heart, patience, hope." David looked at her for a long time. "You've been carrying that fire alone for a long time, haven't you?" She didn't answer with words. She leaned in, slowly, and rested her head on his shoulder. For a moment, there was no war, no law, no trial. Just warmth. Just two souls, one human, one alien, sharing silence. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between them. Not fear, not duty, but trust. A shadow in the smoke, but not far from them. In the dark hills beyond the village, a figure watched. Krovax. His armor was cracked, his pride shattered, but his hatred still alive. He gripped a dark object in his hand, a stolen transmitter. Inside it, coordinates, a signal. He spoke into the device with a growl. Activate the buyer. Then he vanished into the fog, the calm before fire back at the village. Serrana whispered, "There's another right tomorrow. Not a battle. A choice." David looked into her eyes. "A choice?" She nodded. "You will walk through fire. Not real flame, but memory. You will see my pain, my past, and I will see yours. If you still choose me after that, we will truly be bonded." David took her hand gently. "I'm not afraid of your pain, Serrana. I just want to carry it with you. For the first time." She smiled with her whole face, but above them, the stars began to flicker. A signal had been sent, and danger was coming. Not from the flying tribe. Not from tradition. But from off-world. Asterisk. The spear stole in the morning sun was red too red. David woke early, the cool breeze brushing his face. He turned to speak to Serrana, but her sleeping mat was empty. She was gone. That wasn't unusual. What was strange? Was the silence. No drumming. No. Children laughing. No guards at the gate. David stood, heart pounding. He grabbed his wrist scanner, checked for life signs, and felt cold when he saw half the village missing. And worse, the spear was gone. The sacred spear. The one he had pulled from the grave. The one that bound him to Serrana. It was no longer. Beside him, a message burned in ash. David ran to the center square. Smoke rose from the ceremonial tent. Inside, black marks were scratched into the floor. Alien language. But David understood it. One word. Soul. A child ran to him crying. "They took her." "Who?" David asked, grabbing the boy's shoulders. "Krovax, and the ones from the stars. They came in the night. They took Serrana. They took the spear." David's eyes widened. Krovax made a deal with slavers. The buyer's ship far above the planet. A black cargo ship drifted through orbit. Inside, Serrana sat bound by chains made of glowing blue stone. Across from her, Krovax stood with his arms crossed. "You betrayed your people," she spat. "No," he growled. "I saved them from weakness. That human broke our laws. He made you soft. Now you'll serve a greater power." Behind him stood a tall, insectoid alien wearing a gold robe, a merchant from the Silex Syndicate, known for buying rare weapons. "And rare people. She and the spear come as a pair," Krovax said. "Payment first." The alien smiled with jagged teeth. David's choice down below. David stood before the tribe's elder. "I need a ship," he said. "We have no ships," the elder replied. "We are ground-born." David gritted his teeth. "Then I'll build one." He rushed to his tent, ripped open the old crates his team had left. Inside, spare engines, a broken drone core, welding tools, and a memory chip. He would build a flyer from scraps, but the elder followed him. "Why do this?" "You could return to Earth. You are free." David paused, looked up. "No," he said. "I may not be of your blood, but I made a vow. She's not just my bondmate." He held up a charred piece of the spear's sheath. "She's my fire." Race against orbit as night fell. David's homemade skyhopper took shape, a metal skeleton, patched with cloth and solar plates. It didn't look like much, but it had one job: reach orbit. With shaking hands, he climbed in, strapped down the controls, and stared up at the blinking dot in the sky, the merchant ship. "If this fails," he whispered, "I'll burn out in the stars." Then he pressed the ignition. The engines screamed. Dust exploded behind the craft. The ground dropped away. And David Rain, human outsider, rose through fire, metal, and wind to bring back what no one had ever dared steal: a warrior queen. Inside, the enemy ship Serrana watched the stars through the window of her cage. Then something streaked past. Fast, burning. Small. The guards pointed. "What is that?" Alarms blared. A signal broke through the ship's comm system. A voice, David's voice. Let her go, or I'll tear this ship apart from the inside. The Silex merchant hissed. Who is this? Krovax stepped back. No, it can't be. He's just a human. He can't crash. The hull shook as David's skyhopper rammed into the cargo bay, and as smoke filled the chamber. A single man stepped through, covered in fire dust, holding a plasma cutter in one hand and a promise in his heart. Asterisk husband of the spear. The cargo bay filled with fire and smoke as David stepped through the broken door, his eyes locked on Serana. Still chained, her arms pulled back, her breathing heavy, but her gaze fierce. David, she whispered. The guards moved fast. So did he. David tossed a stun charge to the left. It exploded with a bright flash. One guard fell. The other came swinging a blade. David ducked, rolled, grabbed a steel pipe, and slammed it across the alien's head. The guard dropped and he ran straight to Serana. You came, she said. He grinned, breathless. Always. The final fight footsteps echoed. Kr Ovax. He stormed in, eyes wild, sword drawn. You never should have come, Earthman. David turned, placing himself between Serana and the traitor. He had no spear, no shield, only his fists and one last shock. Baton. But this time he didn't feel small. He felt ready. Krovax charged. David sidestepped, struck him hard across the chest, but the armor deflected it. Krovax grabbed him, lifted him, and slammed him into a wall. David gasped for air. Serana struggled against the chains, screaming, David! Krovax raised his sword. She was mine. David's hand reached behind him and grabbed a fallen spear fragment. Not the full weapon, just the broken end. But it was enough. He rammed the shard straight into Krovax's side. The warlord howled in pain. David kicked him back. Then Serana did something no one expected. She broke her own chains by burning her wrists against the energy cuffs. Her skin scorched, but she didn't scream. She ran to the side, pulled the sacred spear from the display rack where the merchant had placed it, and threw it through the air. David caught it. The humming returned. The spear glowed like fire in his hands, and with a roar, he turned and struck. One clean blow. Krovax fell to his knees, defeated, not dead but broken. Just like his pride. The bond-sealed the merchant watched in silence. He could have fought. He could have called for help. But when David turned toward him with the spear glowing, he backed away, hands raised. We're done, David said. Leave this system. And the merchant left. David turned to Serana, who was bleeding in hand, bruised but smiling. You were crazy to come for me, she whispered. He held out the spear. You said it chose me. She stepped close. No, I choose you. And under the dim lights of the enemy ship, as sparks rained from the ceiling, they stood forehead to forehead, warrior and engineer, alien and human. One heart, one fire, return. To the flame back on Zarian 4, the tribe gathered once more. Drums echoed across the canyon. The fires burned high, and Serana stood before her people, not as a captive or daughter, but as a queen. And beside her, dressed in simple armor, with the sacred spear in his hand, stood David. The elder spoke. By flame and by vow, the bond is sealed. David looked at Serana. She smiled, and as the crowd cheered, he whispered in her ear, I came here to fix machines. Serana laughed softly. And instead, you rebuilt a legacy.